What was your first introduction to the work of John Singleton?
I mean, obviously, Boys in the Hood. I was actually like in Greece that summer when it came out. I used to go like every other summer with my family, and I was there in summer '91, so I missed Boys. But like, I remember when I saw the trailer, like Ice Cube was my favorite rapper at the time. It was like Ice Cube and Q-Tip were like my two favorite
Mhm.
rappers, and I was like 12 years old. So as soon as I saw you know, him in the film, I was like, yo, I need to see that. And I actually didn't get a chance to see it until like a few months later. I forgot if it was like I caught it either on video or like back then you could pay like $4 and like buy it on pay-per-view. Um, but yeah, I first saw it then, and I mean, I definitely wasn't disappointed in it.
What inspired you to write this book?
I wanted to. I had wanted to write a book for a long time. Like, I had an agent for like 2015, 2016, I met my agent. So there were like 5 years where, I was working jobs, I was working freelance, and but the whole time I kind of wanted to write a book. And the way I landed on doing a project on Singleton was in 2020. I was re-reporting a story on Lloyd Avery too. I write about him in the book a little bit,
Mhm.
but he was someone who Singleton put in Boys in the Hood. They were friends, and he ended up like getting involved with gangs. Like he basically became that character that he plays in Boys in the Hood. He's the blood who kills Ricky. And I first reported that story in 2007, and then during like the height of COVID, I guess that summer of 2020, my editor from 2007, who's now working at a digital publication, was like, "Yo, man, you should go in and re-report that story because like it's basically gone from the internet.
Mhm.
It was in an issue of King magazine, and I don't even know if it's online. But anyway, I went and I re-reported it. I spent like months and months on it. Like I kind of went in, and there were some people who I spoke to who I'd spoken to like 10, 15 years earlier, 12, 13 years earlier when I first reported the story. And these were people who, were friends with John Singleton, worked with him, like knew him in college. And I'll never forget it. It was like kind of like when I was like, it was around Christmas time, and I was wrapping up an interview with someone who was very close to Singleton. And he was like, excuse me, he goes, the way you're going in on reporting this story on Lloyd, he was like, it would be kind of ill if you wrote a book on John. And I was like, that would be cool. And I just thought about it for like a bit, and I went back and I researched like the movies, and I kind of came to it where I was like, wow, like every single movie he did, like when I was like freelance writing, I did a lot of like oral histories on certain movies. I had written an oral history on Boys in the Hood in like 2006. So I was looking at all of his movies and I was like, oh my gosh, like every single movie he made, like behind the scenes stuff was kind of crazy. Like, because I had already reported out a piece for Vibe in like 2011 on like Tupac's acting career. So like I knew about what was going on at Poetic Justice.
Mhm.
Um, I remember from the gossip pages like how crazy the staff set was. So um, I was just like, wow, this is definitely something there. And I had interviewed Singleton a few times, and I thought he was pretty great, like just talking to him. And I was like, oh, I could see myself doing this for the next couple of years. And the thing too was like around the time that idea was brought to me, um, there was this really incredible biography on Mike Nichols that came out.
Mm.
Director of The Graduate and
Oh, of course.
like Carnal Knowledge and like Working Girl, all those movies. And I read it and I was just like, man, if I could do like 70% of this, like that would be a home run. And I that was like kind of like I don't want to say like my North Star or whatever. It was like just try to do something similar to that because it was just incredible how like the author Mark Harris, who's like a long, like OG like entertainment journalist, he like just the way he weaves, like the guy's personal life with like the films, and it's like almost like when he's talking about the films, he's also talking about like the state of Hollywood at the time, and it's like you just have this whole like thing going where it's like it's about like his personal life and his artistry and like his place in the industry. And it's like a through line through the entire book. And I kind of like approached the Singleton book similarly, where I was like really interested in like, you know, how boys came at the perfect time, in the industry. And then how, oh, why did his career kind of take a turn like after Four Brothers? And it was because, oh, the industry like had pivoted towards like doing like IP and sequels and all that, and like his original scripts weren't, there wasn't as much of a market for it. Then like, oh, he got into TV because in the early 2010s, that's where the money was,
Hmm.
and that's where studios and networks or whatever were taking more risks than uh, TV studios, I should say, were taking more risks than movie studios, and I found that interesting as well. I was like, oh, I can tell kind of almost like tell the story of like the entertainment industry for like 3 decades, like through this guy, basically.
That was one of my favorite parts of the book. And so to just see it broken down, like, oh no, this happened at this theater, this specific event happened here, like it really helped helped me see exactly how things were laid out and kind of provided more than surface level information, which I, as a fan, I really appreciated.
No,
So,
thank you. Like that was definitely like a goal of mine where I was like, you know, like 50 years from now, someone's gonna like want to write a paper on like, black filmmakers in the 90s or like the state of like 2000, like when Hollywood turned from like original to like totally IP driven, and they're
yeah.
going to reference this book. So like I kind of like went in on the research really just to kind of contextualize like every single era of this man's career, just because I felt like it was useful, and he was such a product of Hollywood as well, where I feel like it kind of had to be told. Like,
To me, that's, and we'll get to the kind of that kind. To me, that's one of the most fascinating parts about him is because I didn't know that about him, that he was, for as original as he was in a lot of the writing that he did, that he still was like a fan of genre films and still wanted to do, a piece close to his heart, like, a Boys in the Hood or a Baby Boy, but then also did aspire to do, the big blockbuster stuff. And
yeah,
to me,
that
that
was the
seems like a
thing that
little
his
more of a
friends, his
rarity.
friends told me, yeah, his friends like were like pretty uh adamant's not the word, but like it was like, the people who were like, wow, why is John doing Too Fast, Too Furious? Or why is he doing this or that? Like they were people who knew him from the industry. The people who knew him like personally knew that he like geeked out over, you know, like every genre movie, really. He
Yeah.
loved that stuff. Like when you look at like, he always like talked about how much he admired Spike Lee, but he wanted to be Spielberg.
Considering how well the Cinderella story of Boys in the Hood has been documented, what was something new you learned about the making of the film that you didn't know prior to doing research?
Wow. Um, that's, I have to think about that question because it was funny, like Boys in the Hood, I feel like when I reread the book, there's like not as much new stuff. See, I gotta get my like copy over here and like flip through it now. Um, I feel like it's kind of like what inspired Boys in the Hood the most, really, which was like the way that I opened the book with the death of Robbie Stringer. Like,
Yeah.
um, that was something that about boys that I didn't really know going into it. Was that how it was? I obviously I knew that it was like heavily, heavily influenced by his personal life and everything that he went through. But that opening scene. in the book, and
Mhm.
uh, how closely he almost recreated it for the movie.
Yeah.
That was kind of the thing that kind of opened my eyes a bit, and like almost like hearing from so many people about like little things that he took that happened in real life. Like one of the guys who was in the opening scene, that guy Kevin Orange, was the one who wouldn't let Singleton get into the car when they were going after Robbie Stringer's
Mhm.
killers. I remember talking to him, and he was like, "Man, where do you think he got the barbecue from? The barbecue scene from? The barbecue scene was like my brother's like welcome home uh, party.
Yeah.
Like his brother, he said, got out of jail, and they had like a welcome home barbecue for him, and that's why he put that scene in the movie. So it was mostly that, and I guess the other thing would be too like the making of it. Like obviously, like I had I'd written a piece about it in like 2006. So, like I'd spoken to like Stephanie Elaine before, and I'd spoken to some people who worked at Columbia, other people who worked at Columbia, I should say. But like getting my hands on the script, the coverage review, the
Mhm.
like when they submitted it, and the I forgot, gosh, it's escaping me now what the job title was, but the script coverage, the like basically in-house review team,
Mhm.
hearing what they thought about Boys, that was really interesting as well. How they were like they recommended it, and they were like, yeah, this is very authentic. Like, rap is kind of blowing up. Like people who are fans of rap might like this book, this movie. So that was kind
Yeah,
of
I mean,
interesting
even
to.
aside from Cube's appearance in it, like it definitely had a hip hop aesthetic to it. And but I mean, that's part of that environment at that time too. I don't think you could make a movie about South Central in the early 90s without touching on the effects of NWA and Too Short and just all this West Coast rap that was bubbling just below the surface.
Right,
But
that was a
yeah,
quote that someone told me, and I kind of paraphrased it in the book, was that it's a hip hop movie, but there's no one rapping in it.
exactly. And I did like that, and that thing too, where he was able to get that subtle diss to Easy E in there when he jumps the crackhead wearing the "We Want Easy" shirt. That
Yeah,
was cool.
that was something that I had reported on in like 2006, like when I did the oral history for King, and it was funny talking to Singleton about it because he was like the last person I interviewed for that piece. I had done like 15, 20 interviews already, and he was like the last one. So it was kind of funny where I was like, the costume designer said this, like Cube said this, like this person said this, like what happened? And he just like went off talking about, what happened. He was like, I told him like, yo, you got any Easy E memorabilia you can bring in tomorrow?
In your book, you also mention that the office of John Hughes at one time had the script for Boys in the Hood.
Yeah, well, that was just like the agent like sending it
Yeah,
out, like I don't know how close it got. Like I know he read it, or the people there read
yeah.
it. But yeah, like it went out to John Hughes people, and went out to, Jonathan Demme actually kind of came closer than John Hughes to like producing it. Like Singleton and Demme like remained friends for a long time. Like they actually like that was like one of his like first like kind of like industry moments. Like he flew out to New York and had lunch with Demi, like an Italian restaurant in Midtown. Um, so yeah, it did. Like that was kind of standard stuff, but
Yeah,
like the
I
fact
kind
that
of
like
figured it
people,
was, but just the juxtaposition of
yeah,
John Hughes movies with that script, because John Hughes is one of my favorite filmmakers, like, and one of my
yeah, the
favorite
thing,
writers. So it's just like, oh wow, I'm just trying to picture the guy that wrote Uncle Buck reading Boys in the Hood. It's like, well,
right? Well, I mean, John Hughes made incredible like teen movies, and Boys in the Hood, in its essence, is a teen movie.
that's very true.
Like I think I write in the book where it's like, you have people fretting over the SATs, you have like a couple like bickering whether they should do it or not. Like you have like the star athlete like getting recruited, colleges,
Yeah,
all
that's
certain
true.
things that could happen in like any teen movie, except this took place in John Singleton's world.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite moment or scene personally that resonates with you from that movie?
From Boys, I love, oh man, like it's funny, like I I've seen that movie so many times, and it's like I never get sick of it. I love there's certain it depends on like I love the montage like with the Tevin Campbell song playing,
Mhm.
like where you have like Trey and Nia Long, Brandy like bickering, and you have like Ricky at football practice, and you have like Doughboy like dealing drugs and like flirting with chicks. I love that montage because it's just so like it's like a very smart like thing to do in a movie,
Yeah.
like just to change it up, and you got to give them props for that. Um, One thing that's incredible to me is, after Ricky is killed in the alleyway, and I mentioned, I pointed this out specifically in the book, was I talked to Craig Brewer, who directed Hustle and Flow, and he's talking about like the shot where, how the blocking is like incredible in that shot where like, I forgot who's cradling Ricky, and then you see like Monster and like Dookie in the background, like leaning on the car, and then like little Chris like rolls into the frame perfectly, and it's just like three different like levels of depth in the scene in the shot. It's like really like impressive, like blocking for 22-year-old or whatever he was when he made the movie. Um, Tyra Farrell, like incredible. Like
Oh
that
yeah.
scene when they bring him home, it's like she's I think Nikolai's called her like a hurricane or something like that. Like it's incredible. Like her performance in the entire movie is great. Like I mean, even from the first line, like who's that little fucker on my porch?
Yeah.
Um, to that scene, like incredible. Like you can get emotional watching it. Like every scene that Ice Cube is in, like it's just crazy how cool he was in the movie. Um, yeah, I mean, I can go on. Like I have like a
Oh,
million favorite scenes, but like right now, like the last time I saw it, which was probably like a few weeks ago, like those are the ones that like stood out to me. It was a line like that someone I interviewed for the book I was just Cheo Hadari Coker mentioned this like the first time I talked to him about the book where he said his favorite scene was the at the end when you have the Bloods just like at Eat a Burger, like where they're you know, bullshitting over like, why you putting so much ketchup on your French fries? Or like, yo, you going to see your girl tonight? Like, I'm going to see my girl. And he was basically like, you know, if we followed these guys from the beginning of the movie, like, Ice Cube and them would be the bad guys. Because these
yeah.
guys are just like regular, like, guys in the neighborhood as well, you know?
Hmm.
And I felt like, when he said that, like I watched it again, I was like, oh shit, you know? And it was funny. It was like one thing that like I told when I interviewed Singleton, like, gosh, it's almost like it is 20 years now, Jesus Christ. Um, I remember making the point, like, there's no bad guys in Boys in the Hood. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, you know, they're like almost like shadows of each other. He goes, like, they're like mirror images. You have three and three, and like, I mean, obviously, like, Ricky and Trey weren't like gang members, but like the neighborhood they were in, like, you're almost like affiliated by just the neighborhood that you're in.
At a few points in the text, while you're discussing poetic justice, it stated that people in Singleton's circle felt the script needed work. Did anyone you speak with detail exactly what was meant by that? Or,
Well, I mean, the ending,
yeah,
like, it's a very abrupt ending. Other things were like people were concerned with, you know, the women characters that he was writing, where it was like, this is what you think women are like. This is based on your experience with
yeah,
women. This isn't like all women, or this isn't like a fully nuanced portrayal of a woman. And the thing with Poetic as well, though, was that like he kind of like raced through it, and everybody knew like that it didn't have like the same care as Boys did. Like he was supposed to start writing it. He did start writing it like in early '91, and he's like 3 months later, and he's about to go over to Cannes, and he has like 6 pages basically. And then it's like it's the summer of 91, and in like August, he's like, oh shit, I need to finish this. And he kind of races through it. Excuse me. So the people who were close to him, like, just could tell obviously that it was almost like finishing an assignment as opposed to, you know, putting your everything and like all your focus and time into this one thing. And he was, this was 91 he was writing it, so he was 23. Like, you're a 23-year-old and your first movie's blowing up and you're becoming rich and famous and you're getting girls, and yeah, like you're not gonna have the best long-term planning where it's like, oh shit, I need to like spend 2 months on this script and not do anything else. And it was impossible for him to do so just because of all the obligations that he had with Boys in the Hood. So, but he was so anxious to get another movie in. Like, that was kind of like, it was funny when I interviewed him the first time. He mentioned to me the reason why he didn't want to do the interview is because he's sick of talking about Boys in the Hood, and he's a veteran. He's like, I've done X amount of movies. And he was anxious in 91, 92 to to finish a script and get in production with Poetic Justice, just so that he wouldn't be a one-hit wonder and not have that incredible movie like just kind of like follow him around until he makes his next movie. Like, he wanted to get the next movie into production like ASAP.
I feel like the movie is good, and I kind of feel like I can see what it was trying to do. It just kind of missed the mark a little bit.
I feel like the thing about Poetic Justice is like, if I close my eyes and I think of like 1992 and 1993 and what it looks like and what it sounds like, it's kind of Poetic Justice. Like,
Mhm.
Tupac and Janet Jackson and the fashion and the music. And now we're in like post, I grew up in New York, so I can't really speak on like, oh, that's LA, that's so LA. But just from like being an outsider, and this is what you see on television of Los Angeles, and just culturally of like, it was a cultural moment. Like, the Tupac and Janet Jackson casting is inspired as hell. But the thing with Janet, like, there's some moments where she's great.
Yeah.
Like, I think I forgot where I mentioned this, or but like the final scene, like, even though the final scene is just so abrupt and it's just like the way the movie ends, it's just, but like, just like, she's like sitting there with like Tupac's daughter and like doing her hair, and like, I mean, it's her song is on, and it's such a
Yeah.
beautiful song, and then like the camera zooms in on her and she like smiles and she's gorgeous, and it's just like, can you imagine anybody else in that role? But then like you have this scene where she's like, I'm not no bitch. If I'm a bitch, your mom. And it's just like her line reading is like so bad in that. I'm just like, oh man, like, ah. But
Yeah.
and also like, I don't know, like I feel like the other three of the four, like Regina, King, like Joe Torre and Tupac were like kind of so like really good in their roles. But Poetic, like, I just, it's a road trip movie, and it's like, I mean, Ebert said something like this in his review, which makes me like think that the movie was effective. Basically, it's a road trip movie, and like the point of a road trip movie is to like show how the people change, from the beginning of the trip to the end of the trip. And
Mhm.
everybody has changed, and everyone is different at the end than they are at the beginning. So that's one way to look at it. I also think that like, it's a total nostalgia thing for me. Like, I did not like Poetic when it first came out, but I like it more now than I did back then, just because, I close my eyes and I'm like 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
I would say it didn't help that like Men's Society came out 2 months earlier before
Yeah.
Poetic, and it was like, oh, this is the new like quote unquote like hood movie, or like, and now you have Poetic Justice, which is, it's a romantic like
Yeah.
road trip, a character study mostly.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to look at it. So yeah, more of a character piece than like a story so to speak.
Yeah. That was yeah. Ebert said that in his review as well. Like basically, like this is the type of movies that like you know experimental filmmakers would do like as a one-off, like back in the 70s. Like, oh, I'm gonna do this like little movie now, and he did it in his second movie, which
Mhm.
might not have been the right career move, but the guy was like an artist, like through and through. Like even he did take some jobs that were just straight money grabs, but like the guy, especially in the beginning, was an artiste.
Yeah. One of the most memorable things for me that I learned in this book is on page 103, where talk about Singleton telling Tupac that he is a better actor than a rapper. Um, did you agree with that assessment? Why or why not?
Um, do I agree with that? I thought Tupac was a great actor and he's a great rapper. I I would I would probably take his rapping over his acting. Um, because I mean I've been listening to rap since I was like 8, 9 years old. And I'm not even like one of these like Tupac stans where like I
Mhm.
can like recite everything. But like he kind of does something that like nobody else can do kind of in rap and like make people feel certain things that like no other rapper could do. Whereas with acting, I mean, look, he was in 6 movies and he was really good in 3 of them. Like Juice is incredible. Like
Yep.
he's really good in Poetic, even though it's not a great film. He's good in Gridlock, you know. Um,
Mhm.
Above the Rim is just, I don't know, I'm not really into his performance or the movie. And the other 2 ones, Gang Related and Bullet, are just, you know. So I would disagree with Singleton and say Tupac was a better rapper than actor. I
So
would,
jumping to Baby Boy then, do you feel that he redeemed himself with Baby Boy kind of after not only poetic justice, but just, I mean, he definitely had, with Higher Learning, with Rosewood, there were definitely a few roadblocks there, and it definitely didn't get quite the acclaim there for a while.
well, I don't think, I think redeem is kind of like the wrong word just because, like, I mean, I remember I used to say this like when I was defending like Nas, like when people were shitting on him for like, I Am, which I think is a really good album, and Nostradamus, which wasn't a good album. I remember saying like the guy put out Illmatic, like anything else you get is gravy after that.
Yeah.
And like with Singleton, it was like the guy put out Boys in the Hood, the guy made Boys in the Hood. Like I'm good with whatever I get from him from now on. Like
Yeah,
Rosewood is an incredible
it
movie.
is.
Rosewood was just like I get into the book a lot, and it's like something that I was like really, really interested. Like when you talk about like movie industry stuff, um, I'm probably way more interested in it than like anybody else who read the book about like the Rosewood's path from like potential like Oscar winner to flop like in February, like back when like they dump movies in February. Um, so I feel like Rose was an incredible movie. Baby Boy, when you say redeem himself, I mean I use this line in the book where it was like a palate cleanser. Whereas he just needed to make like a movie where he had control and he was like in his environment after being in New York for so long. But Baby Boy, I feel like it just shows like his genius and like his gift for being able to take things from his personal life and tweak them and make them relatable. And just these are things that interested him. And he was able to make this like incredible movie out of it. Like Baby Boy, I always tell people, like throughout this entire couple of years I've been working on this book, like you got to see Baby Boy. Like you got to look at it again. You got to watch it. It's like so entertaining, but it's so good. And like from like a filmmaker standpoint, it's incredible. From like an acting standpoint, like the guy took Tyrese like not off the street, but I mean like the guy off the set of MTV, I guess you could say. And like the guy gave an incredible performance. Like
He really
Taraji,
did.
like him seeing her in the first audition and him saying like, yo, that was the best audition out of anyone ever auditioned from any of my movies. Like, I mean, I was more of a casting director who I should say that they brought her in, but like Ving Rhames' character in that, like just I get into in the book about like how he cast AJ Johnson, and how he convinced her to do it. Like you see, it's like being a director isn't just like it's so much more than just directing.
Mhm.
It's like um, it's incredible how like that movie got put together and how like his casting, like the eye for casting was incredible. Like every single person in that movie gave like the best performance of their career. I feel like Tyrese, Taraji. I mean, Ving Rhames has given it a bunch of great
Yeah.
performances, but for me, like Melvin is like you watch it again, you're like, I want more of him. Like AJ Johnson's incredible. Like that scene where the famous scene where the confrontation and Ving Rhames is like, you got shit twisted.
Yeah.
You want her to be your woman, but she's my woman. And just watch that scene again and look at AJ Johnson's like facial expressions, like throughout the entire scene when Tyrese is talking, when Ving Rhames is talking, like incredible. Like Baby Boy, look, it's like 10 to 15 minutes too long. Like some scenes go on too long. Like, you have another drive by, which again wasn't his choice. Like, the studio, like, you know, made him shoehorn that in. But like, oh, Snoop too. Snoop is
Oh yeah.
incredible, and that's his best performance. Like Omar Gooding, like,
Yeah, I got
yeah,
to remember Taraji and Omar Gooding from the show called Smart Guy, which I really liked when I was a
okay.
kid.
That was
And
the little kid, right?
yeah, yep. And so I thought they were obviously that's a very light-hearted show, but I thought they were both very good in that. And so then when I found that both of them were going to be in a John Singleton movie, I couldn't have been more excited about
That's
that.
funny. That's
Uh,
funny. You you're like the only person that was like the target audience. That was like smart guy fans.
yeah, it became very clear, similarly to Boys in the Hood, that Baby Boy very much reflected parts of Singleton's life. And I know you mentioned that in the book as well. Did anyone you
Yeah.
spoke with or that you know of feel uncomfortable with how much personal content he put in that movie, or I guess any of his movies?
I mean, I spoke to the woman who was kind of the basis for
Mhm.
Yvette, and she never like really said she was uncomfortable with it. But yeah, like that was a lot of their
Yeah.
relationship. I'm trying to think now. Did she mention that she was uncomfortable? She didn't. I know there's a quote in there from, someone who worked with him who, when he had them read the script the first time, when they said, "Motherfucker, are you just putting your personal life like
Yeah.
on film?" And he's like, "Or are you making a movie?" He's like, "Motherfucker, I'm doing both." Um, so yeah, obviously there are people who were like felt like you were revealing too much about yourself, like your kind of like dysfunctions,
Mhm.
kind of. But I mean, that's an artist, really, right?
Exactly. Was there anything as a viewer that you found surprising about Baby Boy?
Probably the first time I saw it, like the first thing that I thought was like the sex scenes, maybe like
Yeah.
those are like two very, very graphic, but like good for different reasons. Sex scenes. Probably like going back, it's funny. I actually did see Baby Boy in the theater. I saw it like, man, that was like back when I used to like go to the movies a lot, and like I would just go by myself sometimes. So it was just like I remember going to see it was the summer. I remember going to see it just like a matinee or something. I wasn't working. I'm trying to think what was like. I didn't like it as much like the first time I saw it. Like I liked it more and more each time I saw it. And now I'm like singing its praises like it's like,
Yeah.
The Godfather. But I remember the first time seeing it thinking it was like good but not great. And now I like kind of love it. I was probably surprised at like how good Snoop was in it.
Mhm.
Snoop had a little run there in like 2001. I mean, gosh, he did a lot of movies that year. So he did Baby Boy. and they did The Wash, which was like
Yeah.
terrible, but
He was good in
whatever.
Training Day.
Uh, yeah, Training, that's what I was getting at. Like Training Day, he was, he was a drug dealer,
Yeah.
Like he could tap into that.
Do you have a favorite Singleton film that he directed but did not write?
When we go down my rankings, oh, Rosewood.
Hmm.
Rosewood, he didn't write it. Like he claimed that he wrote it. Like that was a little like of a, you know, what I'm looking for. Tiff
Hmm.
like Hubaloo, I don't know. He collaborated with the writer on it, but his name isn't on the script. But he did input, like have certain input in the movie. But
Hmm.
I'd say Rosewood, I mean, out of all the movies that like my Singleton film ranking is definitely Boys, Baby Boy, Rosewood. But the movie that I like that like not a lot of people like is Too Fast.
Hmm.
Like I love Too Fast, Too Furious, and that's another movie that I did not like when I first saw it. Too Fast, Too Furious. I did not like when I first saw it. Baby Boy, I liked it. I didn't love it. I did not like Too Fast, Too Furious. But as this franchise got more and more ridiculous, and I remember like going back, I hadn't seen Too Fast for like 10 years, and like I saw it like 10 years after it came out. And I was like, I found it charming because like now you're like, this was like when like Fast Seven or whatever was coming out, and these guys are like super spies, like
Yeah.
superheroes, like globetrotters, like government mercenaries basically. And then you go back to Too Fast, and it's like, they're like racing for like $1,000 or something like that,
Yeah.
and they're goofing off in a garage with like Ludacris while he's like people are jet skiing. It's like it's when you look at where the franchise went. And the thing I like about Too Fast as well is he made this comment on the on the director's commentary on the DVD, which was that like it's got so much of his personality in it. Like you look at difference between the first Fast and the Furious movie, which is my favorite in the franchise. Like I
Hmm.
love the first Fast and the Furious movie, but like there he changed the soundtrack of it. Like the first one was more like techno music, and this was more like southern rap. You got David Banner like a pimp over the opening credits.
Yeah.
Um, you have like more diversity. You have a little more humor. Like the interaction between like Paul Walker's character and Tyrese's character is it's very Singleton, where it's like guys kind of broing out, whereas
Hmm.
the relationship between like Paul Walker and Vin Diesel was like it wasn't the same like kind of like guy friendship shit like it was with Tyrese and Paul Walker. Just the fact that I mean this is something that I realized after like reporting on it really, but just like the amount of like improv he had them doing and
Hmm.
just like pushing them to like hang out and like just be able to like get a feel for each other. It made me appreciate the movie a lot more, you know.
Well, hey, Tom, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed chatting with you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
All right, same here, man. I
All right.
appreciate it.
Peace, man. Take
All right.
care.